Welcome to the Casual Boys podcast. I'm Francisco,
And I'm Brandon.
and we're here to talk about movies, TV, current events, memes, and the internet.
But keep it casual.
Yes, of course, we always keep it casual. Now, Brandon,
Yes, Francisco.
I'd like to have a casual conversation about the Halo 5 gameplay reveal and trailer that happened today.
You want Halo 5 or Halo Infinite?
Shoot, Halo Infinite, damn it. We're going to keep going.
We're gonna rewind 5 years back into the past. Come with us.
Oh, we're back. Whoa, is that Luke Cage?
Oh, I know, right?
I can't wait for this game. It looks so good. What did you think of the trailer? We'll start with the trailer that came out last year. What did you think of that?
Is that the one where we just see the guys driving and then there's like a flare, or the one with the guy and?
Oh right, I forgot about that one. Okay, yeah. Well, that first one, I guess that there's no talking. That it's just like
there's a lot of scenery, a lot of B-roll.
Yeah.
That one was just a nice little little snack, little appetizer.
a little taste.
Yes.
Because
Because I know there was a lot of people. They're like, "Oh, we're getting more Halo after Halo 5." And
Yeah.
Halo 5 really split the fan base, and I think they knew it's like 343 thought we gotta come back from this. You know, we still made a lot of money on Halo 5, but a lot of people are in it for Chief, and
Yeah.
we need the Chief.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I noticed whenever we were playing was that it feels like a Halo game that's just constantly interrupted by a Halo side game.
A little bit. I see what. Yeah, I definitely can agree with you because I know between the two of us, I like Halo 5 more, but I can't deny that there were some things that are just kind of weird about it. And
Yeah.
I know they're trying to do that split thing. Like I know how they did it in
Halo
Metal.
2.
Yeah, that one, and also Metal Gears 2. Whenever you switch from Solid Snake and you play as Raiden,
Mm-hmm.
but some things worked, some things didn't.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was that the biggest thing with Halo 5 was that I felt like it never really felt like you were playing as Chief. It just felt like you were just playing as whatever Spartan and you happen to be.
I can understand that.
Yeah, so I wish there was a little more. Well, were there any things that you could do as Locke that you couldn't do as Chief?
I think there were certain abilities that he had. I think he has a ability to do a few more grenades or whatever. Chief had I think more capabilities and some armor things, but nothing too distinct.
Okay.
Nothing too distinct.
Yeah, I think because that was the cool thing with the Arbiter was that it was just even the UI was different whenever you were playing it, so it was cool. You actually felt like you were a different guy.
Yeah, because you could disappear and whatnot.
Yeah, and even then, it's interesting. I guess just because the Arbiter was a more fleshed out character, but when I was a kid, I never wanted to play as Arbiter.
Right.
As soon as it switched over, I was like, no, I'm the good guy. No.
I understand, yeah, because you get so stuck in just the role of Chief.
Mm-hmm.
Even though you can make the debate of how really immersive Halo is. Chief is Chief. He's such a big icon of video games. I want to be the Chief.
Yeah, and you spent so much time with him in the first one. You basically are him, right? If you're playing these games, I am Chief. Even if I'm the Arbiter right now, this is just the Arbiter telling Chief what happened or something. This isn't really Chief playing.
So getting to see Chief again in Halo Infinite, it was nice, and especially because it was weird because we start off with a guy, and there's a couple minutes of him, and then there's no Chief, but you know it's Halo just because you've just seen the title of the video.
Yeah.
And then Chief comes in and you're like, that's what I'm talking about.
He's like, okay, the franchise is saved kind of thing.
Yeah, and then the minute he talks, I was like, oh, okay, he's doing stuff in this thing.
I remember when Spider-Man for PS4 came out, there was the problem that everyone had that there were 3 or 4 levels where you played as Mary Jane instead of Peter, and it was because you needed some flashback context or whatever, and narratively it just worked better that way. But you obviously were not Spider-Man in those,
Right,
so it's
right.
like you're just kind of waiting for it to end.
That's
I
that's kind of like a uniform kind of feeling. Like I know not everybody gets that, but there's always that large subset of people who say that they don't like changing up the gameplay when you're in the middle of a character.
hmm
Yeah, because you're like, you're so invested in this one character, then you just gotta start doing something else as another one, and it just kind of interrupts the flow of gameplay.
Yeah, I think because one thing that was good that Halo 2 did, um, and I don't remember if Halo 5 did this, but they probably did, was that they introduced the switching pretty early on. So you
Mm-hmm.
know that, okay, this isn't just going to be like, oh, I'm suddenly a different person. Because I feel like in
It's not a
Spider-Man,
Last of Us 2. Spoilers.
I feel like in Spider-Man, for the first like 3 hours, you're always Peter. And then, okay, probably more than three, but it's been so long since I played. And then just randomly you become Mary Jane at some point. You're just kind of like, But with this, you
Do
have
you ever get to tell Spider-Man go get him, Tiger?
yeah, that if that was in there, I think people,
Oh, okay.
if it was that Mary Jane, that's the problem. I think it wasn't that Mary Jane. It's like their own Mary Jane, which is fine. But you always know a good Spider-Man movie if they get Spider-Man movie or franchise if they get Mary Jane right. So shout out to what was it, Into the Spider-Verse?
Yeah.
That was a good
Yeah,
Mary Jane.
that was good Mary Jane. The voice is from Peter Parker, but yeah.
Yeah. So for one thing, I'm like somebody mentioned. So I was watching Funhouse's recap or their live stream where they like talk over what's going on with the Xbox reveal. One thing that I forgot who mentioned it, but they were like, "Oh, is this the guy that you're gonna play randomly for like 2 or 3 levels and hate every minute of it, like the Mexican guy that's with him?"
Savage.
Yeah, and I was just like, no, I didn't consider that, like, because I think I'm just so, like, excited to be Chief again that I just it like completely left my mind that, oh, I might not be Chief the whole time.
Right, yeah. It's not like they can do Halo 3 again, because I think those times of just doing just the one character throughout might be coming to an end.
Mm.
Like, there's always that push for more diversity in the sake of, like, you want to diversify the gameplay, not just because he's a Mexican guy. but
He used that grappling hook to get over fences.
if he had the Mjolnir armor, he wouldn't need to have to deal with ice. It's like, ice comes from, all right, we gotta detain you. No, I detain you.
Yeah. And then like maybe that's why maybe the guy, that's why he's like so like angry about wanting to go home because he got deported into space.
The banished is ice.
Oh man, the banished is ice, bro. That'd be so messed up.
Do you think I'm wrong though? Do you think like, because Halo 3, you just stick as Chief, like even though Arbiter is in there, you don't play it. He just comes in and he helps you out.
Yeah.
You're Chief the whole time throughout Halo 3.
It's interesting because for Halo 5, I was like, the Arbiter's here. Just make me the Arbiter too, like instead of Locke, right? But I think the issue.
The Arbiter saved us like so many times, and when we played
Yeah,
Halo 5.
he did like 50% of the work at least. So we each did 25. Especially against what was his name? Optimus Prime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ultron.
Yeah, Ultron. Yeah, especially against Space Ultron.
Yeah, he took him out that time we were playing on Legendary.
Yeah, he did. Didn't we like die, or one of us died or something? But like right as he took him out,
Yeah,
so we won.
So, like,
Yeah, we just got so lucky that gameplay. But yeah, I think that I don't know, because the interesting thing. So Spider-Man was an open world, right? But these were main story levels that whenever you were Mary Jane or when you were Miles.
You're the best of us, Miles.
Huh?
You're the best of us.
You're the best of us. What is it? You on your way. Shit, I forgot what I was saying.
Main levels.
Oh, yeah. So I wonder, like, I wouldn't mind if there's, like, side levels where you play as Homeboy. I don't know his name. If you play as him and, like, explore his storyline a little bit or whatever. Or like, you have random things where you find little weird messages from his like creepy hologram wife. That was creepy, bro.
I think
Because
just
like,
because the angle of like how it is, and then they have the little kid.
yeah,
singing.
she was talking to the little kid, but you couldn't see the little kid, and it's like,
maybe they don't exist.
yeah, like why aren't you showing the kid? Maybe.
And I think you're right, because obviously they hit us with that pathos, and they know that you got to have some sort of connection to this person.
Mm-hmm.
Which I have no problem with. I just hope we get to appreciate him, because of course whenever you bring a new character to existing franchise, there's always that: are we gonna like him? Are we not gonna like them? Is there gonna any contribution whatsoever?
Yeah.
And I think this is gonna sound kind of mean. Not just ragging on Halo 5, but the issue with one particular member of Fireteam Osiris.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't Buck. Everybody loves Buck.
Yeah, Buck's great.
We liked Vale even because she was able to like speak with the elites.
Yeah.
Nobody likes Tanaka.
No, yeah.
And even when I was playing it, like I did not like Tanaka. For me to say something like I don't like this, like that, this must be bad.
For you to not like something Halo, yeah. And I think it was, I don't know, Vale. At least whenever we were playing, Vale came into clutch. I feel.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Vale was always helping us out. But yeah, Tanaka was just kind of like a red shirt.
A little bit, and she's always like just talking down. Sometimes on lock. I'm like, dude, like,
yeah.
He's in charge of you. Don't do this.
Yeah. Then that. Oh, I remember what I was gonna say earlier. The thing that I think the main issue with Halo 5 for me was that in the trailers where they were giving you that pathos of like, Locke thought that Chief was like this terrible war criminal and stuff, or whether or not he was like specifically war criminal or traitor or whatever, and he was gonna go like get him for justice purposes, and then in the actual game he's just like, oh, like he's just kind of following orders,
right.
And it's just like, no, I want you to hate him. Like I want if you're not Chief, I want like a strong emotional like reason behind it. And then they had that stupid fight that it just it just looks so dumb. I just hope at least have good fights if you're at least you can just have them in engine. If they're not gonna look good, at least have them in engine, cause yeah, that was really like it felt cartoony, I guess, and it took you out of it. Yeah, I think having the Mexican guy is either going to be really like cartoony or actually like surprisingly good.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned cartoony because we were talking about this and something about the graphics. It just reminded me of like a little bit of Fortnite, a little bit of Apex Legends, and maybe cartoony in the way of like you could definitely tell it's like a little bit more animated.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't bother me. It was a little bit new for me to see like in Halo, and I guess they're just trying to really build on that new kind of like really kind of flashy but also like very in the moment kind of way of first person shooters.
Yeah,
because the way Valorant's doing, there's a lot of like things in the around the HUD that you see with all these colors and all these new lights and notifications.
I think they do want it to be, because like personally whenever I played like Call of Duty like World War 3, it was like, or World War II, whatever it was that came out, I was like, this looks so bleak. like it looks like an old video, and like I know the conditions were bad.
Yeah, that used to be a joke amongst a lot of like back in the day video game people. Like you can have 1 or 3 colors if you play Call of Duty.
Yeah,
gray, brown, and maybe a little
blue.
Bit of blue. Yeah, the shade of blue as well.
And it's like, it looks like it's kind of like what's it called? Breaking Bad, Mexico.
Oh yeah, when they have the filter and like every time they're in Mexico or something, it's like yellow or this really weird orange flushed out.
Yeah. It just like if once somebody points it out, like you're just like, oh yeah.
Yeah, because like in the moment you're like, all right, yeah, you can just feel
this looks
like
good.
You're
like,
pressing heat the desert, and it was like, You ask our parents, like, it looks nothing like that.
So I think this has a little bit. It has the saturation turned up a little bit more than I guess you'd expect from a Halo game. I think because it is wrestling between being like trying to not deviate too much from 4 and 5, but also because it kind of does end up looking like Reach a little bit.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Where Reach looks a little more like grimy because it's like older, but it does. I think when I was watching it, it felt like you're playing Halo 5 in Reach. Like that's what it looked like to me.
I like that. I like that description. That's a great point, actually.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
So I hope that once you're in it, like you end up getting used to it quickly, because it does. I guess we'll do this part. What is your hype meter right now for Halo Infinite? From 1 to 10.
From 1 to 10.
Okay.
Whenever hit anything Halo, it's 10.
That's true. Well, okay, I wouldn't say anything Halo, but mainline Halo. I'm mainlining that, you know.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know exactly what that feels. Yeah, no, I feel like.
Oh, hittable Briss doing sober cocaine or heroin or whatever it was. Yesterday I was watching the episode of King of the Hill where Hank gets that like crack or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And he's like using that as fish bait. So like
I
this
got all the Jack you need, man. How much of a Jack you want? Man? I got $20.
It's like, what you call it bait? I like bait. I like that. Yeah.
That's who should have been on the next fire team. Just the guys in the alley.
Yeah.
Main character is Hank, and then Bill's the heavy weapons guy. Boomhauer is the sniper. And then Dale is just like overall support because he's not that strong.
That's true. Dale would be like he'd be like the guy in the chair probably or something. Or he'd walk up to like Atriox with like a thing of flowers.
Oh yeah.
But it's got a gun inside.
And he has like the armor ability squirrel tactic, and he just runs away.
Oh, I wonder how
it writes itself surprisingly well.
Yeah. I wonder how susceptible Atriox is to Pocket Sand. Yeah. I couldn't think of it. That'd be Pocket Sand. Also, whenever those levels in Halo 1 where you're going through like those really dark little tunnel things on the Pillar of Autumn.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of like whenever Dale was in the air ducts and he was killing all those roaches.
That's how he kills the infection forms.
Yeah. Oh, you're right.
Turbine.
Okay, Dale actually would be pretty OP in Halo.
Yeah.
Because he is an exterminator. Oh, yeah. So the Flood, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that the Flood are ever going to come back?
I don't know. That's a good question. Because in 3 we defeated the Gravemind.
Mm-hmm.
And, this is going to be a little bit of a spoiler, but in Halo Wars 2, the Flood actually are featured in the DLC.
Mm.
You play as some of the banished, like 2 brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them, they unlock something, because Halo Wars 2 takes place on the Ark. And it turns out it wasn't destroyed in Halo 3.
Mm-hmm.
So what ends up happening is he opens something, and then Flood attack them. So the Flood are still present in the Halo universe.
It's just we haven't seen them.
With Chief again.
Yeah.
Since 4 and 5. So there was that with the Flood. So they're a really big part. I don't know how they're gonna bring them back.
Mm-hmm.
Like if they're gonna make a new Gravemind or something like that.
So
because now they're balanced, they just gotta balance out. Like we got Cortana to deal with, we got the Banished.
Yeah.
We're gonna bring the Flood back again.
I wouldn't mind like a Flood DLC.
Like you play as the Flood?
No. Well, actually, if you could play it just like as the Gravemind,
yeah.
and you're just like, oh, that'd be cool, like some kind of RTS.
Oh yeah,
where you're like
yeah.
the Gravemind. That'd be cool.
Like if people play Zerg.
Yeah. But no, I mean like there's like because this is a Halo ring, right? Mm-hmm. So there are Flood on it, right?
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like maybe Chief. I don't know if they're gonna blow this ring up by the end of it. But maybe Chief like discovers like Flood somewhere, and then or maybe it could be like something like a big side quest or whatever, where there's like Flood. But I think that would be cool, and I wouldn't mind if they save something like that for DLC because I prefer when the Flood is like its own dedicated story,
right?
Than like the overarching story.
Yeah, or at least they have an important part in it.
Yeah. So especially like in Halo 1 where it was it wasn't until level like 7, right, that
Yeah.
you even encounter the flood, which is like dope because it just feels like, oh, this is another thing that I have to deal with, but it doesn't take away from the overall fact that like I'm just trying to get off of this ring.
Right. Yeah. Because when you start fighting the Covenant in Halo One, it just kind of not that it felt bad. It's just like all right, we fit the standard. We're fighting aliens, and then this new thing comes in, and
Mhm.
then it doesn't take away from the fact that the Covenant are still fighting you. Like you still
Yeah.
have to deal with them, but you also have to deal with the Flood as well.
Yeah, and it did add to that lore that like, hey, the Covenant don't live here either.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
they're just as much like susceptible to whatever dangers are on this ring as we are.
yeah.
Um,
So I'm excited for that. I want to see where they go with this. There's just a lot of open ends that they could explore,
mhm.
but also just because it's man, like so many years of this franchise, and they just know that yeah, we gotta get this right
Mhm.
because I think we've noticed at this point that continuing franchises, it's a make or break deal. Like
Mhm.
Disney really divided the fan base again with Star Wars. Like,
Yeah.
if you didn't think it was possible to divide us even more, you divided us even more.
Yeah.
Game of Thrones, like what they did to themselves.
Yeah, because they were like, I remember HBO was like, oh, we got like 5 shows coming up in the Game
Mm,
of Thrones universe, and now they have like one.
yeah, and nobody's excited for it.
Yeah.
They were talking about like, oh yeah, we're doing more stuff with House of the Dragon, and I read all the comments on Facebook, and they're like, that's great.
Mhm.
There's a lot of Jon Snow quotes like, I don't want it.
I actually, so for that, I think I'd be okay with it just because there is no like world ending stuff.
Mm.
Like, I mean, there might be like, civilization ending stuff, but there's no more world ending stuff, so we don't have to worry about that.
I like, it'll be like, all right, this level of destruction is okay.
Yeah.
End of the world, no, but destroying a civilization, I'm cool with.
Well, because like it wouldn't really work that well narratively. It'd be like the Dragon Ball Z thing where it's like,
Mm.
well, Frieza already tried to blow this planet up, and then now Cell is here, and now Boo is here, and it's just like, where do these really strong guys keep coming out of nowhere? Which Cell I thought was good. I
Yeah,
love Cell,
I love so too.
but Boo, I'm kind of torn on Boo. But yeah, I'm glad that at least for that they're coming back to like a story that isn't as important
Mm.
because I think so. Going back to Halo, I think the from Halo 4, the Didact.
Mm-hmm.
I thought his story kind of worked in that it was he's just like a rogue. What's his
Forerunner.
forerunner?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just like a rogue forerunner that's like out for revenge, right?
Mm-hmm.
Out for blood, and
Yeah, and also because the whole time, if you before Halo 4, we just knew them as like they were the ones who stopped the flood, so
mhm.
we automatically assumed they were good guys.
Yeah, and then you like realize that it's like, oh, they're kind of the reason that humans are kind of stupid.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I you know.
Especially if you guys ever look at the terminals. You don't have to do this if
Mm,
you don't have the game. You can just YouTube it. But it
mhm.
explains a lot about the story of the Forerunners, the Didact, and what they did to humans. And
Mhm.
it was you realize this whole thing was just a big misunderstanding. A lot of it just could have been solved if you just like, hey, let me call you before I do this. But also, you believe the intensity of what happened. So
Yeah. There was a so. Did you ever read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
no, I never did.
I read some of it. Some of the I think I might have read the whole first one, and I definitely watched the movie because that movie was good. Oh, in my opinion, it was good. I remember maybe 10 years ago now on Netflix they actually had the BBC show from the 80s where
Oh
it was
wow.
like it was
Okay.
like all the books I think or at least however many were at the time.
Yeah.
And so it like there was that whole question of like, there was that supercomputer that was Earth that like you're trying to figure out what the so like there was a question that was like what's the meaning of everything, and the answer was the number 42. And then this is really unrelated, but it's interesting to me. um, and then so the Earth was actually a giant computer that was created to figure out that answer. right? And it was so big and it was like so advanced that like life actually began to form on top of it. Um, and so they ended up blowing it up because they were trying to make like an expressway in space. So they ended up blowing it up.
Oh my gosh.
Before, yeah, like I don't remember how
This
long,
isn't
but
too far off of what kind of happens in Halo, so it's kind
yeah.
of related. We're constantly blowing up Forerunner artifacts. I'm sure the Didact is like, that's free real estate you're blowing up.
That's true. Yeah, there could be the answer to life, the universe, and everything on like Halo installation 04 or whatever. Um, but anyways, back to the Hitchhiker's Guide. At the end of it, there was a like the idea being that the people that or the organisms that were created on Earth by the computer, like they kind of had a lot of the calculations within them.
Mm-hmm.
So like you were close to the answer just by being just by existing, right? You by being born of the computer. So the last episode they try to figure out like, oh well, it's in you, but to find out what the answer or to find out the question that 42 is the answer to, we'd have to like kill you, but they didn't want to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
So he just like pulls letters out of a bag randomly. Yeah, it's so dope. He pulls out letters out of a bag, and then it forms the question: what happens when you cross 6 and 9, or something like that, or like 5 and 9? And like that's not 42. That's the answer is not 42, but it's like it's one of those things where like, well, I mean, I guess none of this really matters. Um, it was definitely more so like the thing about the ride.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Halo kind of benefits from that is that I it doesn't matter what it doesn't necessarily matter what happened in the lore, but like what you're doing at the moment is what's so cool. So earlier we were talking about how ODST was so good, and how there was a YouTube comment that we saw that Halo 5 was supposed to be kind of like ODST, but whether or not that's accurate, we'll never know. But then Microsoft didn't want to get too deep in the lore. But I think,
Well, it's a narrative.
oh yeah, too deep in the narrative,
Yeah.
and like,
But you bring up a great point because like it was its own standalone thing, and it did a little bit because you got to meet the engineers and whatnot. But I never felt like, all right, now we're just gonna write a new chapter of this.
yeah, I forgot about the engineers.
Yeah, the one thing we're supposed to protect.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and then I started shooting them like
Yeah,
immediately.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
That really was a great day. Like that one, I'm sure we've mentioned this before, but like we dedicated a huge chunk of our summers. Even not even the summer, just
it was like a year, man.
just every Monday we play Halo, and that one in particular, ODST, we finished it all in one day.
Yeah,
and I think part of the reason why ODST still gets so much love is just because how different it was, but it was also true to Halo.
Yeah, true to Halo, fun game, and you honestly didn't know it was gonna happen, because like unlike when it's Master Chief, Master Chief was gonna win and he's probably not gonna die. Especially after what happened with Halo 3 where he didn't die. But with like Gunny and everyone else, was it Rookie? You're like, wow, like these guys are actually pretty cool. Like I hope they're in like a main series game one day. And I mean Gunny at least.
Yeah, we get him back.
Yeah, and he got turned into a Spartan too. So was he a Spartan 4?
Yes.
Yeah. What do you think about? So what do you think about? They add like in Halo. Was it Halo 3 where they added like the abilities and stuff?
In Halo 3 we got the equipment.
Yeah, the equipment.
And Halo Reach we got the abilities.
Okay, yeah. And then like Halo 4 and 5 built that in more so. What do you think about that? Do you think it kind of takes away from the gameplay, or do you think it succeeds in
I'm only
keeping it
giggling
fresh?
because when Halo Reach came out, and that was like towards the final run of the Xbox 360, that had a big controversy amongst Halo fans.
The equipment?
Sprinting actually.
Yeah.
Are we actually gonna be able to do this? Like sprinting? Like, is this gonna destroy the gameplay? What is it gonna do? And this is more about like the mechanics, because as well as the storyline, people love Halo for its multiplayer.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of competitive multiplayer out there.
Yeah.
And so when sprinting came out, they're like, no, this is gonna mess up everything. We can't do this. How could you guys? And on top of that, we got like, you know, armor lock, dome shields, just all this stuff happening.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand the argument, kind of. I don't agree with it, just because, you know, the more involved you get with this game, the more you kind of have to kind of do with it.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it just kind of, it's the crux of having to do such a big honor of honoring this first-person shooter, but also to do more than just shooting. So I like it. You know, it diversifies this stuff pretty well. I hope to see continued. We kind of see a little bit in Halo Infinite. It's like the grappling hook. I'm like, all right, he's using his left arm now. It's kind of like, you know, we get dual wielding again without dual wielding.
Yeah. I wonder if dual wielding is gonna stay though.
It was weird why they got rid of dual wielding, because
it wasn't in 5?
No, 4 and 5 they took it away.
Oh.
And I think because like somebody was like, yeah, I don't like dual wielding. No, in Halo with the ODST deck, are we gonna get the guys in the ODST to dual wield? And this is still under Bungie, and somebody's like, no, I don't like dual wielding.
Oh,
I don't know why that was a thing, but that was, you know, and for ever since, you know, Reach and 4 and 5, they're like, we want dual wielding back, but they're like, no, we're sticking with the, you know, single weapons.
I mean, dual wielding Needlers was too OP, but like everything else, I think it's everything else that was, especially the SMGs, like, yeah, you kind of need a dual wield, otherwise,
yeah.
it kind of sucks.
Yeah. Which is why, like, in 4 and 5, when I was playing, I'm like, wow, this has a lot of punch to it. Yeah, because, like, you can, like, zoom in on everything and whatnot, so it felt like you had a weapon instead of, like, a little BB gun that you were firing at aliens.
Yeah, I just wonder if... So, the thing about the dual wielding for Halo 2 was that I felt like that like, made it more Halo-y. Like, by adding dual gun, like, 2 guns, like, it made it more Halo-y.
I get what you mean.
But I wonder if, like... Because one thing that I appreciate is that with all the equipment stuff that they have now, all the equipment and the abilities, like, I never used them when we were playing.
Right.
And I think that it's cool that you can still play it without having to use them, really. So, you know,
it doesn't take away from what you've done.
Which I appreciate. I don't think it added... I don't think it made it more Halo-y. But I think it definitely didn't take anything away. So I wonder if the grappling hook is going to feel more Halo-y, or if it's going to feel like just something tacked on.
At first, when I read about it, I was like, this is kind of weird. Like, I've never pictured Chief of a grappling hook. And now I see it, I'm like, I'm okay with this.
Yeah, like, I definitely want to use it to, like, grapple onto enemies and just, like, punch them in the face. But I don't know.
Just like a 2-ton Spartan coming straight forward.
Yeah.
It's terrifying.
And that's another thing, because he already jumps really high.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, you never really thought to need one.
Yeah, it's kind of like the jetpack. Like, you never really thought, like, you would ever need this.
Yeah.
When it happens.
That's true. I forgot about the jetpack.
I saw a meme. So, do you remember in Halo 5, like, you can do, like, a ground punch and you can divert your armor ability to, like, make a big impact on the ground? Somebody made a meme. It's like, just take away all the weapons in Halo Infinite. It's just all ground pounding.
It's like when you have Donkey Kong on Smash.
Exactly,
You're just, like, hitting the ground. Yeah. I love doing that. I love doing that because, like, one of my friends, he really likes to just stand on the edge and use Link. And so I like run, like, flying over there and just ground pounding him so that he has to, like, jump off of the edge or, like, you know, get away from the edge. Yeah, this is definitely, we're not talking just about Halo, but that's okay. So, I didn't say my hype level. So my hype level for this game is definitely like it's definitely like a 9.
Okay.
You know,
very high still.
I think what's
you
holding
feel
it
that,
back.
You know, it's just a little bit. You're not full all the way at it.
Yeah, I think what's holding it back is that, like, I really, really want to get a PlayStation 5, and I don't want to get both, at least not at first.
That's a pretty penny right there.
Yeah,
For
that's
either one of them. I
it's like
understand.
$1,000 just for I mean, and bad example because I paid like 500 or $600 or whatever just to play Halo, just to play the Master Chief Collection. Um, so that's on me. I'll own that. But yeah, I think if I was like more in the Xbox like ecosystem, I would definitely be a 10. I'd be super excited. But the not the fact that I'm more of a PlayStation guy is holding me back, which is interesting because historically I'm very much an Xbox guy. As you can see, the Halo Xbox behind me, the original Halo version. Did you ever like how those looked?
Yeah. I always assumed that once you got into gaming, especially Xbox, that was like, it's like you evolved from Nintendo. Like, there's nothing wrong with those consoles. Like, that's like terrific. They're aesthetically nice, and then once you kind of get into like the American version of gaming, you're like, all right, it's gonna be like more adult looking.
Mm-hmm.
We got like these all black and green highlights and whatever, and you just feel more like, all right, I'm an adult playing video
Yes,
games.
this is a mature machine for
Yeah.
learned
And then the
people.
PlayStation was like all sleek and everything. I
Yeah.
still remember what the PlayStation 2s looked like, and those things were just like they look like modems now. But they were like, back in the day they had like these ridges and everything, but they
Yeah.
still kept this sleek thing.
Now
So
they just look like a stack of magazines or modems. Yeah.
yeah, they just especially the new PS5 the design. They're like, all right, now it's just an internet modem.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna go off of that.
I wonder. I mean, if there is a, I guess the difficulty with like special edition stuff is that it's limited. But if there is like a Halo Infinite Xbox One or Xbox Series X, I'll I really will try to get that if I do get an Xbox Series X,
Yeah.
because you know, just like I guess you never really think about it like if you're really into the system. So like when I got my Xbox One X, like I didn't think about I want to get like a cool kind of like a cool design or anything. I was just like I just want to play Halo. But now that I have a little more forethought, a little more
Yeah, yeah.
foresight, I'm be like,
And it's
well,
important because Halo is Halo, and no one
hmm
can take that away. But when you invest in these things, like you need to keep in mind like what else you're gonna play on this thing,
yeah,
because you can tell that the Xbox is really banking on like making sure Halo does really well.
hmm I
And
hate the term invest now
yeah,
because I feel like people just like I feel like it's too true. like
it's like
like
reality. Reality is a little bit too harsh.
yeah, you like have to like invest in like everything now.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to be fulfilled as like a tourist
Yeah,
in these
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
things.
No, I understand what you mean.
Mm,
I understand exactly what you mean.
yeah.
It's
So
like you can't, as much as we love Halo, we can't just play it every single day
yeah.
because then it's gonna get kind of stale. Even with Halo itself, even with all the Master Chief collections, like you would want to try something else with these things.
Yeah, but then also if I didn't own the Master Chief Collection on both my Xbox and my PC,
Mm-hmm.
and if I didn't have all the original
Yeah,
games and stuff,
exactly. Like,
I'd be like, no, I need them.
yeah, exactly. Like, it's a terrible paradox.
Yeah, I was actually guilty me. I was on Amazon just yesterday, like looking up I want because I have the box for 1, 2, and 3
Mm-hmm.
or CE 2 and 3 if you're a learned Halo man. Um, and I wanted to get the box, see how cheap it would be to get a copy of like ODST or Reach or 4 and 5 like today. And I think 5 is still like $25 or something weird. But yeah, I didn't end up. But fortunately, I didn't end up buying any because it's probably a waste of money. Uh, just for my own shelf satisfaction,
Yeah, yeah.
which I don't know. I think I think
You can make a little bit more space right there.
yeah, I think it's nice to have these kind of things, um, just to have them.
Mm-hmm.
Like my walls, since y'all can't see my walls, are covered in like K-pop stuff, and like Wolverine. So
Yeah, a little bit of Coldplay,
a little bit of Coldplay, a little bit of
Gorillas.
Bane. You can't
Yeah.
really see him, but he's back there. Um, so I think even though like I'm not thinking about these things 24/7, it's nice to have them. So then you're like you just you're doing whatever and you look up and you see them, right?
Yeah.
So seeing I I I understand the appeal of like people who collect games beyond the fact that like, oh well, I want to have the game so if something happens in the future where it's not supported or whatever, I'll still
Exactly.
have the
Exactly.
physical version.
And especially when I mentioned before we started recording that it's Halo Infinite is going to launch the next 10 years of Halo.
Yeah.
And so this is, looking forward to how much am I going to really support this.
Yeah. And that's another thing, right? Because they want it to be like that kind of, I don't know what it's called, but like the Destiny model, right?
Oh, yeah,
Where it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
an infinite game. Like they're
Exactly,
just
yeah.
gonna keep
You keep
adding
building
on to
on
it.
to it, yeah.
So I think that going back to what I said earlier, that I hope they add like a flood DLC. Like even if it's like an actual flood game, like just like tacked on to like the existing Halo Infinite like universe.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's gonna be so cool.
Yeah.
But I do wonder. So one thing that's interesting about the Halo games is that you find a lot of new settings, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like whenever you're like in Halo 2, like in Halo 2 I feel especially you go a lot of places. Um like you're in what's it called?
New Mombasa.
New Mombasa.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then you go to like Delta Halo and you go to like the Grave Mines like weird world.
Yeah, and then you go to High Charity.
Yeah, High Charity, and then like you're going between all these places. I wonder how they're gonna handle that in this game.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So are you gonna be like, is Halo whatever this Halo is installation is a 07? I forget which one this is. Um, are you gonna be that's like your home base like it is on Destiny where you have a home base?
And then you're going to expand from there.
Yeah,
That's a
or
good
if like
question.
you're only gonna be there like you're just gonna have like these worlds that you can just go between all the time, or are you only gonna be able to access this particular part of the open world for a certain part of the game?
Right. And I'm glad you brought that up because it does seem like they're trying to push for a more open world experience.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's always a tricky thing when you do first person shooters or
Mm-hmm.
first person views. Like, I know Skyrim, that's what everybody goes to when they're talking about open world
Mm-hmm.
as well as interactiveness, but also keeping to, well, sometimes the storyline.
Yeah, and one another thing. I'm just biting everything off of that Funhouse stream.
It's alright, imitation is the best form of flattery.
Yeah, I love Funhouse. Something someone else brought up there is that you know the linear storytelling from the other Halos is cool. Like that's part of the reason you play Halo, right? Is to like be guided through this adventure.
Yes.
So I wonder how it's gonna transfer over to having it as an open world, like where you're not like yeah, the storyline will guide you, like the main storyline, but for the most part, like are they gonna do that? Are they gonna lean more towards like a guided open world, or are they gonna really be just like do whatever you want?
Mm-hmm. I see what you mean.
And
Yeah,
so
there's no AI to help you this time. You always had Cortana to help
you have the
you.
Mexican guy.
Yeah.
You
And
have
he doesn't seem
the.
to be really happy with you a lot of the times.
That's true.
He's like, yeah, I told you to come back.
Yeah, instead of being like, Chief, we got to get to this location, he's like, I hate being here. Let's go.
Oh man, that was.
I am excited,
Yeah, I am
for
too.
the representation though.
Yeah.
Even though we already had our Mexican guy with the bucket hat in the first one.
Yeah. And then we kind of had it, not in necessarily the spirit, but the letter of George. His name is spelled
Jorge.
Yeah. And I remember when we were playing, you're like, is this guy Jorge? And I was like, no, technically it's George, but it's spelled Jorge.
Yeah, it's spelled the Lord's way, but it's not. It's not. Yeah, that's.
Our friend Anthony, the one
Mm-hmm.
who was on the comic book podcast, episode with us. He thought for the longest time he was just like a giant Mexican dude. I'm like, no, he's actually born on Reach. He's Hungarian, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's why he speaks that language.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently, most of Reach was like
Eastern
Hungarian.
European
Yeah, Eastern
type.
European. Yeah.
Yeah, that's another. So that's something too. I wonder if there is going to be any kind of like Star Trek component to this game where you do end up going to like multiple worlds, at least worlds that are like Earth Earth colonized.
Oh right, yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I feel like there's so much to explore
It'll
in that
make sense
respect.
because like now that the Covenant don't kill us anymore, we can like, re-inhabit worlds again.
Yeah.
Because during the whole time they last a bunch of our planets.
So how many do you know like ballpark how many planets we actually like have?
I don't know.
Mm.
But I just knew that once like Halo 2 happened, Earth was really the last thing we had.
Because Reach was like the new Earth, right?
It was supposed to be that. It was like dignified as a fortress kind of world. So you know, a lot of like the military stuff happened there. So when we lost Reach, it was just a huge blow to us.
Yeah.
I like how we're kind of saying this like it actually happened.
I mean, hey, to some of us it happened.
Yeah, it's true. You know, there are some people who still remember Reach when it happens, like August 23rd.
Yeah, no, that's my birthday.
Now every time we celebrate your birthday, you're like, guys, I need to have a moment of silence.
Honestly, bro, I might actually do that. Yo, I might actually just have everyone come over. We play Reach.
We have to get a moment of silence for Noble 6.
Yeah, man. R.I.P. Noble 6. Noble 6 is still out there. He needs
Oh
your
yeah,
help.
you know that He's hiding in the cave.
Yeah, man. It's such a good ending. This will be the last thing we mention. We're gonna add a couple minutes onto our normal length because I think it's important. Do you think, or I guess, what do you think about stories like Reach, like Rogue One, where like you know the end going in, but like, you know, there's still. Do you like those stories where like do you think you can still have a good time knowing that it's gonna end really tragically?
Right, yeah.
Or would you prefer
like
it just be a completely new story?
Right. It kind of goes back to what you're saying with, not the same thing, but a little bit of like Hitchhikers about it's just kind of the journey. It's a little bit like that. Just definitely not the same deal, but I think it's still really effective and really good just because you identify with what the whole struggle was. See how everything arcs into a certain climactic point, and then you realize that these people sacrificed themselves for such a cause that they still believed in. But you know, it's also like you said, incredibly tragic because something has to be sacrificed in this whole thing, and you see everybody gets picked off one by one, and you just kind of count down the clock. All right, who's next? What's gonna happen this time?
How do you think? How do you think that Reach made like Halo CE? I guess all of the mainline Halo games. How do you think it made those better?
I think it made it better because you realize there was a weight to aerial conflict. Sometimes you can, in my opinion, any of the Halo games, you really get the sense like, all right, this is cool. I'm killing aliens, and it's still present in Reach. Like I have fun just driving a car into hunters and whatnot. But then you realize there are certain points where it kind of snaps you back into the story, and like, all right, we're on the verge of extinction. So it made me really appreciate how everything was done, but it also made me appreciate gameplay wise. Like, all right, we're gonna take a new direction in how we're gonna evolve the combat. No pun intended.
I think for me, there was like a really good way of adding more Spartans without without making, huh?
I was gonna say like overboarding you with all this Spartans.
Well, not even overboarding, but without making Chief seem worse.
Right.
Or more normal.
Yeah, because he is like the Spartan.
Yeah, because like we get the experience with what is their name? SEAL Team 6. What's the name of the
Noble
group?
Team.
Noble Team. We get the experience with them, and it's like all their storylines are so interesting, and then tragic, especially Kat. And so
I remember like you audibly gasped when that happened.
Yeah, like I could not believe it. It was one of those things where Like I felt like I was talking, and then it happened, and then I
Yes.
just stopped mid sentence.
Which is why I was like so happy when we played Reach, because I saw it firsthand, like, because you had never played it,
Yeah.
and then I saw you get invested. I'm sorry for using that word again.
No, you're good.
And then you see what happens as a result of the emotional connection. Like, you see these characters that you grow to get fond of just, drop dead.
Mm-hmm.
Especially because George, I know that's what people kind of feel especially attached to George, because he's like Chief. He's a Spartan too,
Mm-hmm.
and you see just a little bit of the mortality of these super soldiers.
Yeah. He's a giant Mexican.
Yes.
Um. Yeah, and then it makes sense why like everyone's like, whoa, we got a Spartan for this? Like what?
Yeah.
Like it makes sense because like yeah, the Spartans they didn't they obviously lost to Reach, but they like still they kind of won though.
Yeah, it's like what Arthur Spooner from King of Queens used to say.
Well,
In my book, it's the losers who are the real winners. And then Doug was like, but what are the winners? Well, they're still winners. They still won. You can't take that away from them.
yeah, but by the end of it though, the real winners were humanity, I suppose. Yeah, we we beat them out for the mantle. Uh, well, has anything happened with the mantle yet, or no?
Not yet. Maybe we'll see
Okay.
coming back into this.
Okay. Yeah. Is it? Okay, we'll get into Halo lore stuff on a different episode. But I think as far as keeping it casual, would you say we did a pretty good job, Brandon?
Yep. That sounds pretty casual.
Pretty casual. Please follow us on Instagram at Casual Boys Podcast. Subscribe to the Casual Boys on YouTube, or listen to us on Anchor, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Join us for more casual conversation with.
Casual boys.
Bye bye.